Are you tempted by the game? No, no. I don't want anything to do with Harry Potter or JK. I mean, I know I loved Harry Potter as a kid. It's just forever tainted now for me. And I know that not every trans person feels that way. Not, and also I do know that there's also cisgender people that are offended by JK Rowling as well. And I think it's everybody's personal choice whether they boycott the idea of Harry Potter. I feel like, it's just a story. Like, why can't we, there's so many other stories out there. Why don't we pay attention to those? Why do we have to hyperfixate on one author, on one work, when there's like thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of books out there that some people may never have even heard of, that may be the best thing they've ever read, but they don't know because they haven't tried, because they're so stuck on their childhood favorites that they never try anything new. I don't think there's a problem with that, though. I think everybody should, like, get the fuck off other people's backs, Like, everybody, like, it's just a book. Like, I mean, it's not just a book. It really did, like, influence and define a lot of people from my generation. So it's not, like, just any book. But, I don't know, it's really hard to, like, continue to support. It's really hard to, like, why would I want to? Like, I mean, I don't really see any reason to play it. It doesn't even look that fun. It looks like Elden Ring, but like a bad version of it. I don't know. Maybe it's a good game. I don't want to shit on the game just because I hate JK Rowling. Okay? And hate's a strong word. I just want her to stop. I want her to do some introspection, but you can't force somebody to do that. You can't. Like, you can't force somebody else to change. But I hope she does. For her own sake. But also for the millions of people that she targets. Whether she believes she is or not, she is. Her words are tantamount to actions with her platform. Like, the platform she has, if she says something, it's the same as doing the thing. Like, you can mince words all you want, you could argue all you want. If you have let's say you have 1 million followers. If you say something, that's 1 million people who are going to hear it and take it to heart because they followed you for a reason. There is an ethical responsibility. It's not required by law. It shouldn't be. But I feel like there is an ethical, like, personal, spiritual responsibility people with big platforms have. And I would do the same with mine. I wouldn't expect other people to, but I think they should. But it's not their job. Like, it's not, like, it's not Ninja, like Ninja said, like, it's not his job to teach kids not to be racist. It's the parents' jobs. It's not a teacher's job to teach your kids how to do things that you, like, why don't you teach them that? They say, oh, I understand, like, with the banning books, that's bullshit. But honestly, if you care so much about that book, then why don't you just give the book to the kid? Go to the library. Or buy the book and give it to the kid. Why do you have to do it in school? Why do you have to go to school to read a book? People have been literally reading and writing books before school was even a thing. Like, pick your battles. I mean, it is an important battle, though. They should not be burning books. And the version of burning books today is to ban them from libraries. But, like, literally in the 1930s, before World War II, like, leading up to Nazi Germany, the Nazis, like, there was a bunch of Nazis that were literally went to a gender clinic, like a special, like a gender research facility that was like a clinic to do very important research for transgender medicine in the 30s. Do you understand? Like, the surgeries came out like a long time ago for at least for male to female. Like, a very long, it's easier to go from male to female than it is the other way around. There's like 6 surgeries that men have to go through. My heart goes out to you if that's what you need. But if it's what you need, that's what you need. There's no, I can't tell you that. I mean, I can't force you to understand this, but the way I found out is, like, whether or not it's hard or like whether or not you want it doesn't matter. It's if you need it. And if you need something, you need it. If you need water, you need water. If you need food, you need food. If you need a penis, you need a penis. If you need a vagina, you need a vagina. That's all there is to it. And whether or not you want to torture yourself by getting it or not getting it, because it's torture either way, but at least the difference between the torture is that if you want to torture yourself to actually get it, then at least there's another side. Like there's a recovery. FTM are high chance of, yeah, there's 6 different surgeries. And honestly, I feel like there's a lower percentage of FTM people that need it. But if you need it, you need it. And I can't tell you what to do. I can't. I'm literally just a streamer. I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you how to move forward. All I can say is, like, there are resources available, and I hope that you can find them, whatever the case is. And I highly suggest, regardless, you should go talk to a licensed professional. And I don't mean that. I know a lot of people hear that and they think that it's like some kind of bad thing. It's like if you have a broken leg, you go to the hospital and they fix it. If you have diabetes, you get insulin and you take it and it treats diabetes. If you have gender dysphoria and you need genitals to change, then you need genitals to change. But you have to know that first. And if you're not sure in any way at all, even if you are sure, even if you're 100% sure, quote unquote, I don't think you're like 99.99998 or whatever. Even if you're 100% sure you need it, you're still going to need to go to therapy. It's a requirement. Like, it's literally a requirement in order to get the surgery. You have to go to surgery and you have to be on hormones for like at least 2 years or something. I still go to therapy. I was kind of feminine before, but I was considered very masculine too. It's called androgynous. I was androgynous, but I could also, I could masculine mode. I didn't feel comfortable. Ironically, I guess not ironically, but like my coping mechanism for avoiding transitioning was to try to be hyper masculine. Like I shaved my head and I would like try to like flex my muscles and all that. Not that muscles have anything to do with your gender. Like, it's important to have strong muscles. They support your body. You know? I'm just a strong woman. It's okay to be strong. It doesn't make you masculine or feminine. It just makes you muscular or not. And it's going to be different if you have different frame, if you have different hormones. But it's still there. Like, I know that it's like, I wish a lot more men, especially, so obviously not all men, but like, I wish more men would learn how to appreciate their bodies and their gender identity without needing external things or validation. And I think there's a bigger problem with men, and I witnessed it as a trans woman growing up, but there's a problem where men don't know how to treat their boys. And that it's a cycle of like continual confusion. And it's just, it's confusion. That's all it is. It's men purposely refusing to do the work required, the introspection, to understand themselves. And so instead of understanding themselves, they try to get it from other places. And it's not unique to men. It's not even unique to gender or sexuality. It's just like, I think a lot of people might do that. In fact, I did before I went to therapy and all that. You try to find any reason, anything to distract you, because you think that, oh, if I'm distracted, that means I'm healthy. You know, if you stream for 12 hours a day, if you play chess for 8 hours a day and go to tournaments and study all day, nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing that to avoid the hard work of understanding yourself, not that you have to, but just, it's like a video game. If you level up your character, you get the experience, you get the levels, you get the gear. You're not required to. You literally don't even have to play the game. But if you want those things, you have to go get them. You can't just stay in town and expect them to happen. Because there's not even enough quests. Like, there's not enough quests. There's like maybe 10 quests in your starting town, right? At some point, you have to venture off and find other quests. You You have to go find other monsters to kill. You're not just going to stay at the level 1 area for your whole life. But I feel like that's what a lot of people do. Is that they find all these things in the starter town to try to distract them, instead of going out and venturing out and finding things that are going to give them amazing rewards. Yeah. The high rate of the high failure rate is unfortunate. There's a much lower failure rate, thankfully for me. I don't want to like say it's a comparison thing. My heart goes out to FTM people, but there have been a lot of successes, and you have to ask yourself if are you willing. I mean, don't take this seriously, but this is what I had to do. Am I willing to die to have a vagina? And my answer was yes. 100% yes. I am willing to die if it means I get to a vagina. Okay? Because there is like a 1% chance that I can die. It's a non-0% chance. A non-zero chance. But there's also a non-zero chance that you can die if you go out and ride your bike. In fact, there's a higher chance that you're going to die if you ride your bike. To put things in perspective, I think more people die from bike riding than they die from SRS. It's not gender reassignment. It's not sex reassignment. It's gender confirmation surgery. GCS. It's a language thing. I think some people get really hyper focused on language, but then you have to understand. I understand why people get offended and angry, and I have it from first-hand experience, from being the offended person. Even a couple of years ago, 2020, you go through these things because you're hyper fixated on it and they affect you very deeply. So when you hear things that are even remotely connected to it, the other person has no idea what's going on. It's not their fault. Okay, it is their fault if they continually insist on ignorance. But it's not the person's fault for accidentally misgendering someone or for using the wrong terminology. It's not the person's fault. They just don't know. But what happens inside of our minds, at least my mind, or at least earlier, but even still today, I think there's some biases that we have because we're experiencing it firsthand while they are not. And so I kind of have to like learn how to take, there are problems. It's not in my head. Okay. Trans people are not making this up. This is real stuff. But there is something to be said about the fact that because we're experiencing it, we feel it much deeper. And it takes a lot of work to get out of that. And I think just transitioning is the answer. Like the longer you go, the more comfortable you are in your body, the more comfortable you are in your gender role, whatever that might be to you. For you, a masculine man might be a guy who like does musical theater. But to another guy, they see that as non-masculine. Neither of those people are right. Neither of those people are wrong. Like it's subjective. I think the guy who thinks that that's feminine has probably got some problems, but to him, that's how he sees it. And nothing's going to change that except for himself. He's going to have experience one day where he's going to realize maybe he likes musical theater. But he associates it with sexuality, like being gay. And maybe he has some hang-ups about being gay. And honestly, I feel like we should have a little bit more compassion for these guys because I think our first instinct is to just say they're terrible people. And yeah, like you can be a terrible person if you continue to do bad behavior. But I feel like, in order for them to get there, they need a little bit of help. And if we're just going to shout at them and scream at them, why would they feel safe enough to reach out for help? And I obviously it doesn't mean that they get to shit all over us, but I feel like they do need help. And these are the people who end up like doing the mass shootings and shit. Those people need some serious help way before it gets to that point. Not just for their sake, but definitely for the the innocent people whose lives get taken away by these people. People whose entire dreams and their families, like their lives are taken away from them. And why can't we help these people when they're children, when they're crying for help, when they can be helped? Why don't we help them then? Why do we wait till it's too late? And oftentimes it's way too late. There's no going back. Like once you take a life, it's over. There's no going back. And so why do we look at mental illness as some kind of, oh, it's only mental illness if they do something bad? Like why? Why not look at the early warning signs and like instead of it's not that they're bad people, it's just that there are warning signs, and if they're left unattended, it's volatile. Like it could go any direction. Like if you leave things unattended, but like maybe you can like help that person and maybe they won't go down that path. Or maybe they still will. Maybe they're just very sick. And unfortunately, not everybody is able to be rehabilitated. Even though I do believe in rehabilitation, I feel like there's a different timeline for everybody. Some people might not be able to be rehabilitated for the rest of their life because we only have so many years alive. So maybe one more day would have helped them. But if they're 99 years old and one more day was not enough, they don't get that extra day, then they were never helped. Some people, they can be helped. I think most people can be helped. I don't think people are innately bad. I don't think people who are toxic are bad. I think their behavior is bad. I don't want their behavior. I don't want to be subjected to it. But I feel like there needs to be some compassion for these people too. Because if we're going to have compassion for trans people, if we're going to have compassion for people of other demographics like black people or disabled people in any way, or you know, intersectionality, like I am trans, I am autistic, I'm also diabetic. like I'm not trying to say this to say like, oh, boo-hoo for the mass murderers. That's not what I'm saying. I hate it when people are like that. Like, why? Why are you jumping to this conclusion? Like, how would somebody get that out of what I said? Like, I'm saying it even though nobody's saying it. Like, I've seen these responses before. And so it's like, not necessarily with me, but like I've seen these people on the internet before. Like, wouldn't you rather help somebody when they were just like a little child and they needed some help? They needed love. They needed somebody to steer them in the right direction. And obviously, you can never fully steer someone. Like, they're going to be who they are regardless. They're autonomous people with their own thoughts and their own actions that they take, their own instincts or their own whatever. But at least you can kind of like, I don't know, there's certain things that we know that children don't know. And I think there is a line. Like, how much is too much influence on a child? I think that is an important discussion to have, but it's a discussion. You don't shut down the conversation just because you think it might be dangerous. Like, the evidence points the opposite direction specifically with transgender medicine. I don't know the specific guidelines and such. You'd have to look into it. But the guidelines, the Pediatric Society, like a National Endocrine Society of, National like Pediatric Psychology, like a whole bunch of different like officially recognized health organizations have very, very, very specific guidelines to move forward with transgender patients. For people expressing ideas about gender, even like there's a set of steps that have to happen before other things happen, and I don't know why people don't understand that, even though we've been telling them that. I don't think they want to understand. So then the question is, how do we convince them? They don't want to be convinced. They don't want to be convinced. So then, how do we approach that problem? Well, we make laws. But then the people voting for the laws are those people. So what do we do? And that's kind of where we are right now. and that's kind of a recap of like the past 10 years in trans rights. Like that's where we are right now. We're basically at the legal point because these people are not going to change their mind. We're like, okay, well, fuck you. You're not going to be legally allowed to exercise those opinions of yours. Those opinions. You can practice your religious freedom, but that doesn't apply to society. Society is multicultural, multi-religious. Like you're not special. Like if your religion says that trans people should, which it doesn't, if anything, it confirms us because apparently angels go beyond gender. So that's trans. That's literally trans. You know, like 2 and 2 = 4. But, you know, even if you did like claim religious freedom for that, well, you can have religious freedom for that. No one's going to police your thoughts. But they're just thoughts. Okay, if you go out in the real world, you have to obey those rules. And if those rules say that you can't discriminate against trans people, you better fucking obey that or you're going to fucking jail or like you're going to fucking be fined. Okay? You don't get to get away with that. And for some reason people are. In fact, people are fighting to put laws to directly discriminate against us, and they have for a very long time. Since at least the Trump administration. In fact, there was even transphobic shit going on in Obama administration. I'm pretty sure, but I know for 100%. There's an entire website dedicated to everything that has happened since the Trump administration for trans rights. And it's been going down with the Republicans. Like the Republicans want to take away all our rights. They want to kill us. And they know they might not say it, they might not believe it, but that is what they're doing. Whether or not they believe it or not. They might have convinced themselves otherwise, but so does a mass murderer. A mass murderer convinces himself that he's an angel of death. Okay, or whatever the fuck psychotic bullshit is going on in their head. Okay, you can convince yourself of anything. It doesn't make it real. Okay, and I know people might turn that around to trans people, but the thing is that's not how it works. I could even like convince myself. I don't. It doesn't work that way. Okay, you can't just flip something around like that. Okay, it's very different. Like that's how gender is. That literally is what gender. There's nothing inherently about anybody that makes them their gender, except for themselves. And that's true of cisgender people, because cisgender people, they're assigned a gender at birth, but literally nobody tells you, like, I mean, people will tell you what masculinity is, but if you notice that literally every person that talks to you in your life is going to have a different response. So there is no like one answer over what masculinity is, over what femininity is. And I feel like trans people, we kind of throw people's expectations aside, and then they start to have a little bit of like cogs moving in their heads. And like I said, that's kind of what's been going on the past 10 years. And it's been progressing like rapidly too. And I think there's going to be a lot of advancement. Even though it seems hopeless and it seems like it's this terrible situation, objectively, I don't even know if there's evidence to support that. I know there's evidence, there is evidence, but I don't know if it's convincing enough, because obviously a bunch of random people on Twitter posting shit about trans people, I don't know if that actually has a negative effect on us. It does, because we personalize it. But as far as like trans rights go, does that actually have an impact? It could, it most likely does. Because these people are voting for politicians who are literally enacting transphobic laws so that they can get their votes. And I just don't understand why transgender medicine keyword, I don't know why healthcare, medicine has been politicized. Like, would people be doing this about insulin? Diabetics aren't real people. It's a lie. They're false. They're not actually diabetic. They're probably raped as a kid or whatever. Sorry. No trigger warning. Also, I think trigger warnings like don't even help. I think it makes it worse. Because then you're going to actively avoid things. I don't know. I try not to say words like relating to that. Like, sorry. My channel's definitely not going to be monetized. It's okay. I have other I don't need my channel to be monetized. It would be nice if I can get ad revenue, but honestly, like my the model I'm making for my income strategy, whether or not it's gonna work or not. I mean, it's kind of working now, but my revenue strategy is not based on advertisements. Unfortunately, maybe it will be. I don't want to discount anything, but I feel like there's a bunch of stuff that I do that kind of puts me at risk of demonetization, like stuff I talk about. But honestly, like, you know, that's what Patreon's for. It is a huge, like, if I was a bigger content creator, it would really matter. But it also wouldn't, because if I was a bigger content creator, I don't need like millions of dollars. I just need like 100K a year. Like, like anything after that, I'm not gonna care about. I'm just gonna be like, just everything's good. Like, just keep bringing it in, shovel it in. Like after 100K a year, apparently there's been a bunch of studies. You know, everything that more than 100K a year doesn't seem to make people happier. I think it was even like 80K a year. Anything more than 80K a year doesn't seem to be making people happy. Now, if people have a lifestyle inflation, like they keep buying cars or they keep buying like really nice stuff, that's lifestyle inflation, and that has nothing to do with the. I mean, if you're making more than 80K a year, I mean, yeah, I think even in the most expensive states in the United States, like California, that's still way more than like the vast majority of people. You're gonna be fine. 80K a year, like, yeah, it might not be like, you might not be rich, but you don't have to be rich. Like, there's a lot of things in life that aren't even pay to win, like meditation, exercise. I mean, you have to pay for equipment possibly, but like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to actually go out and exercise. You have to actually do it. You can't pay someone to do it for you.